Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Great to be here again. Good to see you. And it was 2 weeks ago that I was here last, right?
Yeah.
And 2 weeks ago, I spoke about a person. Can you remember? Mephibosheth. You've been practicing his name. And I said that he only had a little tiny part to play in the Bible. And we have a word in English that you might not have heard of before called cameo. Have you heard of a cameo before? Cameo was originally a little picture, sometimes painted and sometimes carved on stone. A little picture of a person. And now it means a part that is played possibly by a famous actor, a small part, not a main role in a film or a play. So just a small part. So I would like to talk to you about another cameo. Last week we had the cameo of Mephibosheth. This week we have a cameo of a person we don't even know her name. We don't even know her name. And she has such a small part to play. She is an interruption. In fact, she is an interruption of an interruption. Because Jesus was speaking before a crowd and a man came to her and said, "Oh, could you please come? Can you please come and heal my daughter? She is sick." And Jesus left immediately and was walking to go and heal this man's daughter. And then this lady came and interrupted. But this is also a story of COVID-19, coronavirus. We all know about coronavirus, right? Nobody hasn't heard of it yet, right? We all know about it. It has changed the world. And we take precautions. What are the precautions that we take with coronavirus? You wash your hands. You stay away from sick people. Sick people must be isolated. You cough into your elbow, right? You wear a mask if there's danger. Many parts of the world, everybody's always, they're living in masks. Yeah? Very dangerous. And you know, many years ago, long ago, even in Jesus' day, people understood that you could get sick by being close to other people. And they thought that every disease was like that. Now we know that many diseases you cannot get sick from the person who has it. You cannot catch cancer from a person who has cancer. You cannot catch a broken leg from a person who has a broken leg, right? It's like that. But coronavirus, when it first came, we weren't sure. How is it spread? How easily is it spread? How far is it spread? And so we were fearful. Fearful of it, of how dangerous it could be. And so I want to tell you about this lady and her disease. And this disease was so bad. She had had it for years. In fact, we can go first of all and have a look in Mark chapter 5, please. From verse 20. Well, that's Matthew chapter 6. We're going to come back to that one a little later, please, if you don't mind. We come back to Mark chapter 25. And this is the interruption. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. Imagine that. No control, no medicine, no help. And verse 26. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. This disease had made her poor. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. Because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. Immediately, her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed of her suffering. Isn't that a good story? This is an amazing story. A wonderful story. Yeah, it has a good ending. We like stories with good endings, right? We don't want bad endings. And once Jesus realized the power had gone out from him, he turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched my clothes? You see, the people crowding against you, his disciples answered. And yet you can ask, who touched me? You know, you think, oh, wait, they got it wrong. Jesus said, who touched my clothes? And the disciples say, you ask, who touched me? Well, you know, your clothes are you. As far as they were concerned, and as far as we are concerned. You know, if someone made a dirty mark on your clothes, or someone had a bad cold, and they sneezed on your clothes, would you change your clothes? Yes, you would, right? Because that's going to affect me. So your clothes and you are attached. Your hands and you. They say if you don't wash your hands, you'll get the disease. You say, how can it come in my hands? Because you touch your face with your hands, right? Okay. But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, you imagine, this was supposed to be a good story. This was supposed to be a wonderful story. And now, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at her feet. All this wonderful healing might have come to nothing because she had touched without permission. She had touched with her disease. She had touched this good man, this great man. For her, maybe a magic man. She had touched, and she fell at his feet, and trembling with fear, she told him the whole truth, the whole story, right? And he said to her, this is the best story. Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering. Okay. You know, we can learn from this story. First of all, let's put the title up. Forgot the title. This is a very old word. English is full of old words. Who touched my garment? Okay. And we know that this woman, how many years? How many years was it?
12.
12 years. Was it getting any better? So this woman also, you might know the You might not know the full story. But for us, she was just sick. And because it was then and we didn't know, is this a disease that we can catch? If you come close to her, will you also get that same disease? Well, nowadays we would look and say, no, not really, right? Not really. That's something that she's got that you cannot pass on to others. But in those days, they didn't know. She couldn't get a cure. If I come close to her, will I get a cure? Will I get sick? And there were laws in society, very strict laws about this sort of thing. Let's have a look in Leviticus. Leviticus chapter 15 and verse 25. When a woman has a discharge of blood for many days at a time, other than her monthly period, or has a discharge that continues beyond her period, she will be unclean for as long as she has the discharge, just as in the days of her period. These are the laws. These were the laws that made people clean and unclean. What did it mean to be unclean? It meant that she couldn't go to the temple. It meant that she had to live apart from society. It meant that she had to wear special signs, sometimes a special mark. She had to, people who were lepers and unclean had to ring bells to say, stay away, I am unclean. And she had to live like that for 12 years. She was unclean. She was regarded as something you don't come near to. And of course, people didn't understand disease. And when something like that happened, they would ask, what have you done to get this? Why has God punished you to do this to you? Why are you sick? What have you done? Why are you so bad? Because you are so sick. And so this is it's a disgrace. A disgrace to be ashamed of. Very sad. She had to live like this for days on end. She had to live outside the village. She could not come into contact with people. And here, Jesus is coming to town. And she hears this person. She doesn't know theology. She never went to Bible school. She doesn't understand all the ins and outs, but she knows he is a good man. And she knows he is a powerful man. She has heard of miracles. She has heard that things have changed when he has been there. Now she's tried everyone. She's tried all the doctors and she's spent all her money. She's got no more money. She can't come to Jesus and say, take all my money. Take some money. Please, can you take my money and give me healing? She couldn't even do that. She was so desperate. And so she says, I have nothing to give him. And I must even not tell everyone my disease, because I'm not supposed to even be in a crowd. She's not even supposed to be there. Imagine if we're in a crowd and someone here put their hand up and say, hey, I got COVID-19. Hey, what would we do? Yeah? It's a good place to get a seat on a bus. If a bus is full, say, I got the disease, and they all get off the bus. And then you've got the bus to yourself. Even the driver gets off, see? Right? So she had to sneak in. And she comes up. And she touches Jesus. she touches his garment. She wants everything to be quiet. And she has trust that if this guy is magic, if this guy is powerful, if he has the power, my last chance, because she has given up everything. She is in despair, absolute despair. In fact, in Matthew chapter 5, verse 6, that's one of the things that will bring us to Jesus. Not if we want extra, not if we've got a good life and maybe if we had Jesus, things would be even better. But actually, we've got to hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are those who hunger. Are you hungry to be healed? Are you hungry and thirsty for your life to be different, to change from what it was, from what it is now? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for things to be right between you and God, for things to go well again, or for the first time. Are you hungry? For you will be filled. And this lady, in her despair, with her disgrace, was hungry to be fulfilled. Desperate, absolutely desperate. And then she touched Jesus. And what did he say? Who touched me? Because it says in some versions, power had gone out of him. Now, I don't know. It doesn't make it that clear. But why did the power go out of him? Because it was taken without permission? Because she touched him and power went out? You know, Jesus was God on earth. And God, by the very words of his mouth, created the universe. I think one lady touching Jesus with her disease was not going to make too much of a dent in Jesus' power. He wouldn't need too much power to heal her, right? So why did power go out of Jesus? If we look in Leviticus chapter 15 and verse 31, it says here, this is the law, you must keep the Israelites separate from things that make them unclean, so they will not die in their uncleanness for defiling my dwelling place, which is among them. Who was God's dwelling place among them at that time? God was dwelling in Jesus' body. Yes, his physical body. God was with them. And they had to be away, keep clean, keep clear of him if they were defiled, right? And she had sneaked up to him. She had reached out and she had touched him. When the power went out of him, it was not because she had taken some power, but because she had made him unclean. She had made Jesus unclean. She wanted to touch him enough to get from him what he had, but not to give him what she had. And she had made Jesus unclean. Wow. Can you imagine what she felt when she realized that Jesus knew someone has touched me? someone has made me unclean. Why do you think she fell at his feet in fear and trembling? Because this guy knew he was powerful. He had healed her, and she had touched him and made him unclean. Now she was waiting for judgment. Yes? She was expecting to be destroyed by God for coming and touching him without permission. And what did Jesus say in the Bible? I haven't put that verse up, but he said, I have not come to judge the world, but to save it. Jesus came to be touched by our sin. Yeah? You know, we often sing, oh, just a touch of Jesus. Oh, I'd love to touch. I'd love to be close to Jesus. Hey, what are we doing? We're coming and we're bringing before him our uncleanness, our COVID-19. We're giving him our dirt when we come to him. We're giving him our disease of sin when we come to Jesus. That's what we're doing. And you know what? He came to earth to take it. He came for that purpose. Jesus came to be touched and to take our dirt, our sin upon him for our sake. Isn't that amazing? She was doing exactly what Jesus wants us to do in this world. To touch him, to give him our sin, so that he can restore her. Immediately, she was clean. She knew. Oh, imagine that freedom. Oh, I am clean. At last, I can be a part of community. I can be there. I can be amongst them. And so, as she touched him, she knew this one thing. Deliverance. She was delivered. That means she was saved. And of course, Jesus did that for her at that time, in that moment. But he came into this world and he went to the cross as an innocent man, a holy man, a man who was clean, holy, pure, untouched by sin, to take our sin upon his shoulders. And when he hung on that cross, he hung there to die, where he gave his life. They did not take his life, he gave his life to pay the punishment, the wrath of God, to deliver us from our sin. He came so that we could touch him. He came that we could be set free and made clean. No one else could do it. For we all were unclean by those standards, by the sin of Adam in us. We are unclean, and he could take that away. Another cameo. We don't even know her name. But this time maybe we can put our name right there. He's inviting us, if we have not already, to touch him and be made clean. Let's pray.